attack, fast fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and packs. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alright, so I'm gonna try and make this quick and summarize how the hell I got here. So, first off, I'm probably just about to die. And second, yeah, I think I bit off a bit more than I could chew tonight. Anyways, I'm gonna try and nurse this and not die, so I can explain it. Alright, now, hello everybody. This is Kira's show here. Now, whenever we last left off with this series, Midoriya just killed the police officers who sent the bounty hunter, or the assassin, after his parents. After revealing his identity to one and killing the other one, the other police officer killed himself while he was in the hospital. And Midoriya sent their badges and footage of them doing illegal things into a news station. And it was quickly reported that these two cops were corrupt. And the Punisher took the law into his own hands. Whenever a police chief was asked what he thought about that, he simply said no comment. While other police officers, yeah, some of them were a bit, yeah, that was too much, but others seemed to be at least a bit more better toned, if you could say that. Sure, they didn't approve of the Punisher's ways of dealing with people, but they were glad that someone was dealing with the corrupt. Because it doesn't mean that they are untouchable. It just means that you need to know how to get to them. Now, with that being said, it has been a couple weeks. Roughly around 3.5. During the first week, Midoriya began to actually go to that shop a bit more often, and spend a little less time as the vigilante. He would still go out and take out a few corrupt people, but if he was ever having a slow night, he would just come back home. And actually, he introduced Mei to Mitsuki, since this is apparently going to be the first time he's brought around one of his friends. And the two do work on the gadgets. Midoriya decided to, instead of having to just constantly having to remodel the glove for vigilante work and remodel it back, he just built another one. Honestly, it actually did seem to be a bit easier too. And this was actually pretty good. Midoriya being able to actually modify this one a bit more and make it a bit better. Instead of this one just being simply up to this part of your arm, it does actually go up a bit further and head up higher, actually being able to be built around the bend in your elbow. It's around that area, you can still bend your arm, yeah, but you do find it to be a bit more difficult. And eventually you do encounter resistance, where your arm is basically just locked into place. And Midoriya tested this out one day by simply using the air compressor inside of it, and being able to, whenever he punches something, send out a very large blast of wind. Since whenever you basically punch it, this thing springs it outwards forwards. And Midoriya, he was able to actually create something like a power fist from Fallout 4, or Fallout New Vegas, or Fallout 3. I believe that they're actually in New Vegas, but I don't believe... I've seen them in 3, I think. Anyways, now, with that being said, Noya demonstrated this one day whenever he went out on vigilante work. And he was actually able to just smash through a door. And he tested the true limits of it. Whenever he needed to, he straight up smashed into a guy's car door. And was actually able to knock the car upwards into the air a little bit. It was more like he basically ran into the car with all force. However, Midoriya basically just stood there and punched the car. You could have achieved the same thing. However, the amount of force he put off of it was intense. Midoriya being able to upgrade it and remodel it, and actually increase its efficiency by 5 times roughly. The thing is able to actually shatter concrete and punch a hole through it. Midoriya making another one in this time. And him and Mei actually do get a bit closer. She's interested in some of the things he creates, because if they malfunction, the next time he fixes them, they do seem to actually get better, and don't malfunction as much. Anytime he messes something up, he doesn't really see it as, oh, this is an opportunity. He actually sees it as a problem. He doesn't get frustrated, and he's very level-headed whenever he's building and tinkering. Plus, if he does come up with something, he actually does write it down. He writes it down in that little book he always has, especially whenever they're creating or building things. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, he does actually go to UA today. Him and Mei didn't talk yesterday. In fact, for the last week, they didn't really talk at all. Her wanting to, well, try and actually do some last-minute creations. Things that she's sketched out and planned on, but hasn't really perfected. More or less, the things she wants to make that will be original and her own. Since if Midoriya, he sees some of them, he might copy them. She already basically got him set on the path for building stuff. And apparently, since the guy has a knowledge of handguns and, well, as he calls it, junkyard tinkering, the guy seemed to be very good at it already. Now, with that out of the way, Midoriya is at UA. And he actually does arrive here. He has the 2 power fist, and he's got them ready in his backpack. Whenever he does actually walk in, he does actually go through, and he takes the test. He does about average for someone who's been murdering, hunting, and basically cleaning the streets, and who doesn't even really have time to study. I'd give him about a 60 to 70%. He did actually do pretty well on the engineering and building portion of the test. Basically anything that involved electronics, wiring, and circuitry. Now, with that all out of the way, after that is said and done, it is time for the entrance exam, the battle portion. And Midoriya, he decides that if he's going to get into UA, he could try the support course, and show off his inventions inside that room. Over there, deciding that he could show them off in a better way. Combat. Would it be risky though? He's exposing himself and the creations he's used in vigilante work a bit to, well, robots and stuff like that. He originally had a flattened out circle type disc, but he's rounded it out more to just covering his knuckles. So, let's see. Alright, let's give it a shot. Midoriya leaving and walking over. Whenever he does get to the testing area for everyone else, he actually does set down his backpack and actually begin by pulling these things out, slipping them onto his hand, and doing this with the other one. As soon as that happens, Midoriya does actually go to walk into the crowd. And, for once, Ida doesn't say anything about Ochako. He's more concerned with the things that he has covering his arms, trying to simply state that outside help or support gear is not allowed during the entrance exam. Midoriya simply just doing one single thing. He asks Four Eyes exactly what that is. Over there. And Ida looks away, looking back at Midoriya, who already took the power fist off of his hand, then socking him directly in the nose as hard as he could. Ida backing up and having a bloody nose. And everyone around them saw that. Midoriya instantly just putting this thing back on and telling them that that could have been a lot worse. Besides, he couldn't really care much about being a hero. Hell, heroes felt his parents 10 months ago whenever they were gunned down and the judge declared the man innocent. The heroes, they stopped that day. In fact, I stopped seeing them. Tell that to my dad and my mother. I watched them both die. Ida somewhat just, wow, that guy needs therapy, while holding his nose. Everyone else simply just getting out of his way. And Midoriya, he is ready. As soon as he does hear begin, Ida blitzes past him. And he does try and do very well. I want to say that even in the superhuman society, Midoriya's running abilities are average, or at least fairly high. I won't go something crazy and say, oh yeah, he runs faster than Usain Bolt and punches harder than steel with his bare hands, even though I'm pretty sure that's something the Punisher has done. Let's keep it at Midoriya's speed is above average, and his strength is what is considered to be superhuman. That will have a regional explanation later. Now, Midoriya, he is ready. As President Mike, he doesn't announce Midoriya as out. Powerloader wants to see what that kid built. It's clearly homemade. And kind of interesting. The guy could have socked it across the guy's face, but he didn't. And they watch as Midoriya comes up to the first robot. Midoriya quickly throwing out a left hook and smashing the robot as hard as he could. And as soon as the palm makes contact and Midoriya turns his wrist a certain way, it activates. Midoriya immediately punching the robot and denting it, as it gets sent sliding. Midoriya then doing the same with his right arm. Everyone watching Midoriya beat a robot into a pile of scrap metal in less than 6 seconds. Midoriya then doing that again, as this time he actually does run over, smash the robot in the leg and then jump upwards, being able to smash downwards into its consoles, and ripping off a panel, trying to, and throwing it as hard as he can at another robot, slicing and hitting it in its leg armor, cutting off that leg. Midoriya then just punching downwards until the robot stops moving, and jumping his way to the next one. Midoriya jumped up and then smashed downwards with his hands. If, well, you weren't paying attention, you didn't see these things, you'd think that this guy has a strength enhancing quirk. And Powerloader, he's fairly interested. Those gauntlets are very heavily armored, and he can't see the inner workings of them. Simply asking what that kid put down as his quirk. As Principal Nezu, he simply tells Powerloader that the boy didn't really list anything down. He only gave his name, Izuku Midoriya. And, well, I thought this might be an error. However, looking over at his schools or the spot he requested for the entrance exam, it appears that the boy has been through a lot in the past year. In fact, it does also seem like he's one of a special rare cases we get. Wait, rare cases? Ah, yes. Well, ever since that quirkless rule applied, many people have been trying to get into UA even without quirks. In fact, I want to say that this boy is the first one to try. However, he is this year. We've had roughly about 5 or 6. And with this being UA and all, and our 0.2 acceptance rate, you can see why they didn't get in. However, this boy might actually do very good. We cannot allow him into the hero course, but if those are, well, support gear, then I believe that we can allow him into your class, Powerloader, correct? Yes, actually. I'd actually be really honored to take him on. Especially if, well, this is how he's going to try and show it off. Actually, do you think he's trying to just get into UA, or? I highly doubt that. The boy is probably just trying to let out some frustrations. And smashing something might be the best way. Alrighty then. Now, after the entrance exam is done, Midoriya doesn't score very high. He only took out about roughly he took out like a few of the number 1s, a couple of the number 2s, and the number 3 ones. He smashed probably about 3 of the number 3 ones, giving him 9 points. 5 or 7 of the number 2 ones. 7 of the number 2 ones giving him 23. And then about 11 of the single robots, giving him, I believe, 34 or 35 points. Now, after the entrance exam is said and done, Midoriya, he actually does go to leave, simply picking up his backpack and going to head off. Now, as he actually does go to do that, Midoriya gets stopped by Powerloader, who is at the main gate, simply asking Midoriya about his, well, gear. Midoriya simply just saying that he was hoping that he was watching. He was going to simply, well, go for a demonstration and stuff like that, but he wasn't really one of those whole men in suits bureaucrat crap. He was always a whole, you kind of have people take notice of you by your actions. Powerloader, kind of confused. The whole point of being in the support department is to get people to recognize your gear and present it to people. However, Midoriya is one of those demonstration guys. He believes that the only way to truly show how strong something is to test it. And if it does blow up in your face, write it down. Then you can consider it to be an experiment. Then it doesn't look stupid. Now, with that out of the way, Powerloader does look over Midoriya's gear, and does find it to be very interesting. Midoriya being accepted on the spot into UA, saying the Powerloader saying that Midoriya is definitely going to be in his class. Now, with that out of the way, Midoriya does head home, and tonight, this is what's going to be happening. Midoriya is going to be testing out a ballistic fist, along with another weapon. The 9mm gauntlet may help them make, and actually try out. However, these won't be rubber bullets. Midoriya is simply waiting in the top of a warehouse, and he watches as the men who pull up all get out of the car. Midoriya seeing a man with horns and not really caring about that, simply just wondering if the man is the boss or not, and watching a few things happen. These men simply go through on a weapons deal. However, the arms and firearms he's seeing Yeah, it's kind of weird, but they do look interesting. Especially whenever the guy does hand another guy a gun that basically shoots fire. And that caught Midoriya's attention. Midoriya taking aim with his gauntlets and opening fire. As bullets start flying, and Midoriya jumps downwards into the warehouse. As soon as he does fly in, he punches one of the bigger guys across the face, and the shotgun goes off, hitting the man at point blank range and simply sending him flying backwards. However, the man gets back up and begins to attack Midoriya. Midoriya fighting against him and trying to go blow for blow with the guy, along with emptying a 9mm into his face and his guns. Fighting against all these men is tricky, however. Their weapons are better, they probably have quirks, and, well, shit. He's kind of out of ammo on one of his gauntlets. Him reloading his shotgun and coming up, tapping down on his knuckles and simply just firing it off. Doing this over and over and over again. Him thinking that he's killed at least one of them by now. And running out and immediately running towards a man and stabbing him over and over again into his side, before simply smashing him across the face with his left hand, and Midoriya stabbing upwards into the man's head. The man does fall into the ground, and one of the other men do look at Midoriya, before simply shooting him in the chest with a shotgun. Midoriya gets sent flying backwards, as one of the bigger guys do actually walk over, grabbing Midoriya and throwing him towards the car. Midoriya smashing into a wall and denting the side of the car, as he falls onto the ground. His mind simply just thinking, back's not broken, and still can fight. Midoriya getting ready. As whenever the man does get close to Midoriya, Midoriya simply just turns and stabs a knife directly into the man's leg. The giant buff guy that he just unloaded a clip in at point blank range. This guy's bulletproof. Shit. The man simply just somewhat wincing in pain, picking up Midoriya as Midoriya, he reached into the back of the car and simply pulled out one of these guns. The man somewhat dropping Midoriya and backing up. Midoriya just blasting him away with it. Now, as the man gets blasted away, he actually does fall into the ground and begin to bleed. Meanwhile, the other guy Midoriya stabbed in the head currently just got back up and started shaking off his head. Midoriya simply just analyzing his wounds for a second, before simply just beginning to blast away this guy. The guy, he does go down, and Midoriya does actually walk over and put an extra shell on his head for good measure. As the guy with horns, Midoriya sees him, and he actually does throw up his hand to try and blast away at this guy with his shotgun. The guy simply just sprouting wings, and as soon as Midoriya pulls the trigger and there's a flash, the guy moved. Midoriya doing it again and again and again. As whenever Midoriya does fire this shot next time, he has already fired the 4th bullet. And whenever he does cock the gun again and throw it up, simply the guy grabs Midoriya by his left hand and begins to crush it, along with the metal onto the gun, before simply throwing Midoriya over his shoulder and smashing him into the ground, hurting and actually making Midoriya land onto a part of a shotgun shell, it beginning to stick into his back. As the man tells Midoriya that he has no idea what the hell he is getting involved in. You puny human. Before simply just picking up Midoriya and smashing him up against a van. Midoriya's body hitting back into it, and him trying to actually throw out a punch, socking the guy across the face and then going over and over again. Midoriya throwing 3 left hooks and 2 right. Whenever Midoriya does actually try and punch him as hard as he can, the man instantly catches Midoriya's hand and begins to crush it in it. Midoriya actually wincing in pain and simply trying to bite the man's knuckles, before the man simply just headbutts Midoriya and simply does one thing, socking him into his gut as hard as he can and pinning 2 fingers into Midoriya's body. Midoriya actually coughing up a bit of blood. And the man actually does begin to dig more into Midoriya's body. Before he pulls back his hand, he just tells the puny human that he's really messed up. And that he has no idea what he did. Now he's going to have to find himself some more people. And Mr. Something won't be happy about that. He's my boss. I take good pride in what I do. If my boss is happy, then I'm happy. And I get paid fine money. So, how about this? I'm gonna send you to hell, then I'll be there to torture you. Now, the man simply then looks down at Midoriya's shirt. And he actually does pull it down to make sure this is actually what he thinks it is. Simply just saying, "Holy shit. You're the Punisher. Are you serious? You're just a kid. Damn. To think a lot of people down there actually do fear you. How many kills you got on your belt, kid? I'm guessing 100? 200. Midoriya trying to say, through part of the concussion, 486. Damn. You know what, I'm actually a bit more surprised. Usually people don't even get that many. They don't even cross the 100 marker. Hell, you're one of those rare cases, aren't you? Then again, are you counting my guys? 'Cause they are dead. 488. Okay then. I'm guessing that you need to know this then. Out of respect, I'm gonna let you go. However, if you survive, it is on you. I don't really care. So, I'm just gonna leave. The guy says, as he simply tosses Midoriya away from the truck. And Midoriya smashes onto the ground hard. And he does try and get up. One of his hands is crushed. He has shrapnel in his back. He was shot in the chest with a shotgun. He's probably broken about 7 or 8 of his ribs. He's got a fractured skull and possibly a broken back. Honestly, not his worst day. Now, I believe that has us caught up there. That was roughly, 5 minutes ago. The guy left and Midoriya is now just laying here. Hurts. And trying to get up and move. His body won't really listen to him. And it's getting harder and harder. Midoriya is suddenly just closing his eyes and trying to get some rest. He dies. Anyways, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Now, Midoriya opens his eyes, and he finds himself nowhere, really. The place just looks all white. It's actually kind of blinding. Midoriya trying to step forwards and actually see what's going on, as a figure appears before him. A very beautiful woman. And she looks at Midoriya. Before simply just, putting her head in her hands. And somewhat start crying. Midoriya just confused, asking exactly what is going on. To which she begins to explain She is Midoriya's, his family's, guardian angel. Midoriya, confused. Angel. Like, biblical angel. Yes, I'm very sorry. I protected your dad a long time ago. And, well, I was supposed to be protecting you. But I can't interfere with the world of demons. And, well, the world of man. However, luckily for you, God is giving you another chance. I'm sorry, God? You're joking. Do you know how many people I've killed? Yes, but they weren't innocent. Fair point, but I'm still just curious. Doesn't that count? Well, it does, but they're sinners. And, well, you're kind of slowing him down. Slowing who down? Well, yeah. A very powerful demon has been unleashed on the earth. And we can't really do a lot about it. We've tried sending someone after him, but they more or less got killed in the last century. Then we've been trying to find someone. And you're perfect. Oh, okay, so what's going on then? Well, first off, I'm going to, firstly bring you back to life. Then, I'm going to allow you to basically do whatever you can. You'll be in charge of stopping this demon. And if he does basically get where he needs to be, he will unleash hell on earth. Okay. This is a lot to process. Actually, I'm kind of the one who's sorry. But I do need to bring you back right away. You're kind of on a time limit. I can explain the rest later. Midoriya then opening his eyes and coughing back to life. Simply rolling over and beginning to cough up a lot of blood. And the pieces of shrapnel. Midoriya bringing his hand up to his mouth and simply coughing, hearing metal rattle against each other. Or at least lead. As he pulls his hand back, he sees a puddle of blood. Then, lead. In the center of his palm. Simply just turning it over and watching it all fall. Simply just staring at it. Pulling up his shirt and finding those holes are scarred over. Then, there's the shrapnel. The shrapnel on his back isn't there. The holes are gone, and his hand isn't broken. Okay. Now, Midoriya does actually hear sirens, and he takes off running. Watching as the demons on the floor, they disappeared. And the blood is slowly oozing in a pool of fire, or you can say hellfire. And it's disintegrating or disappearing. Midoriya just leaving the warehouse. This is enough madness for one night. Him heading over to, well, the nearest place he can to hose himself down and head home. Still kind of confused on everything that's happened to him tonight. This has all been weird and difficult. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And if you guys are completely surprised or confused or just like, what the fuck is he doing? Look it up. This is an actual thing the Punisher has done. He's become a bounty hunter from heaven. Or for heaven. And it's some of the most metal shit that I have ever heard of. Imagine that. You're a guy who kills people, you beat the shit out of them, you basically fucking torture them, and they all deserve it. Then someone finally puts you in the ground, and not only do you come back to life, you get some pretty kick-ass perks to go with it. I'll be listing those perks in the next part. Anyway guys, I do hope you enjoyed. And surprise,